DC just did something insane. They turned a Batman villain into a pure horror film. And it might be the most disturbing thing they've ever made, because it opens like this. Do you realize that you have the most beautiful face? That line, that single question, delivered in a voice that is calm, almost tender, almost loving. And underneath it, a man whose face no longer exists. That is the opening of the Clayface teaser trailer, released on April 22nd, 2026. And in 41 seconds, DC Studios did something that no superhero studio has ever done before. They made me genuinely, physically uncomfortable. No cape, no cowl, no hero landing, no quip, just a hospital bed, blood-soaked gauze, and a question that was never meant to be answered. Welcome. Because what we are about to break down is not a superhero movie. This is a body horror film, wearing the DC logo like a mask. And it might be the most disturbing thing this studio has ever greenlit. Let's get into it. I need you to understand something before we go any further. The body horror of DC is not a phrase I use lightly. Body horror as a genre is specific. It is the violation of the human form. It is the idea that the thing you trust most, your own skin, your own reflection, has become your enemy. It is Cronenberg. It is The Fly. It is The Thing. It is not what you expect when you see the Warner Brothers logo. But here we are. Let's walk through what this teaser actually shows us, frame by frame, because I think a lot of people missed how deeply disturbing this footage actually is. We open on Matt Hagen, played by Tom Rhys-Harris, lying in a hospital bed. His head is entirely wrapped in white bandages, and the bandages are soaked, dark red, spreading. The blood is not dried and dark brown, the way you see in a typical PG-13 action scene. It is wet, it is recent, and, crucially, it is concentrated around his eyes and his mouth. The two things that define a human face. The two things that make you recognizable. Then, the lab, the procedure. Someone is being held down, restrained, and a liquid, thick, almost viscous, is being dripped directly into their open eye. Slowly, deliberately, the camera holds on this. It does not cut away, fast to protect you. It lingers. The body horror of DC is in that linger. That is a directorial choice. That is James Watkins saying, "You will not look away from this. You will sit with it." And then there is the bathtub. This is the shot that has people talking. And I want to describe it carefully because if you blinked, you might have missed exactly how wrong it looks. Matt Hagen is in a bathtub, sitting still, and he raises his hand to his own face, the most natural human gesture imaginable. You touch your face 100 times a day without thinking about it. But when his fingers make contact with his cheek, the skin moves. Not shifts, not stretches the way normal skin might. When you press it, it deforms, it pulls, it trails. Behind his fingertips, the way wet clay does when you drag a thumb across it. The geometry of the architecture that makes him him, becomes momentarily horrifyingly fluid. The body horror of DC is that bathtub moment, because that is not a superpower being shown off. That is a man discovering that he is losing himself, that the boundary between his identity and something monstrous has already been crossed, and he did not even feel it happening. And then, the bubbling clay, the pedestal, the thick, brown, organic-looking substance reacting, churning, almost breathing, and the shadow, the wall, the silhouette of something that used to be a man, but the arm is too long. The proportions are wrong. The shape keeps shifting at the edges. DC has given us a monster, but more importantly, they have given us the man the monster used to be, and that is what makes the body horror of DC land so differently here. It is not spectacle, it is grief. It is the horror of erasure. Now, I need to talk about the name that changed everything the moment it was attached to this project. Mike Flanagan. If you know that name, you already felt something shift in your chest when you saw it in the credits. If you do not know that name, let me explain very quickly why it matters more than almost anything. else about this movie. Mike Flanagan wrote and directed The Haunting of Hill House. He made Dr. Sleep, the Stephen King sequel that by all logic should not have worked, and somehow became one of the most emotionally devastating horror films of the decade. He made Midnight Mass, a show about religious faith, addiction, and what we are willing to become for the people we love. He made The Fall of the House of Usher, a Poe adaptation about a powerful family destroying itself from the cave. Inside Out, through vanity, ambition, and self-deception. Are you starting to see the pattern? Flanagan does not write monsters. He writes people who become monsters, and then forces you to understand exactly how it happened, step by step, choice by choice. The horror in his work is never the creature at the end of the hallway. The horror is the path that led someone there. The horror is recognizing the logic of the descent. And now look at Matt Hagen, a rising Hollywood actor, a man whose entire identity, whose career, whose relationships, whose sense of self is built on his face, on being looked at, on being desired, on being the person in the room that everyone wants to see. And then that face is taken from him. Flanagan has spent his entire career writing about addiction, about the lengths people go to when they are desperate to feel normal again. The Haunting of Hill House is, at its core, about a family, fractured by grief that no one will acknowledge. Midnight Mass is explicitly about addiction, using the metaphor of vampirism to describe the seductive, destructive logic of dependency. Matt Hagen, in The Batman, the animated series version of this story, the version that defined Clayface for an entire generation, was also an addict, addicted to a face cream called Renew You that gave him back his looks, forced into increasingly dangerous situations by the man who supplied it, trapped, humiliated, and eventually destroyed by the very thing that was supposed to save him. That is a Flanagan story. That is exactly the kind of psychological architecture Flanagan builds his narratives inside. The disfigurement in this film is not the plot. The disfigurement is the wound, and everything that follows: the experimental treatment, the transformation, the violence. That is what a man does when his wound is never allowed to heal. When James Watkins directs that and Flanagan writes it, you are not watching a villain origin story. You are watching a portrait of a man disappearing. And the body horror of DC becomes, in Flanagan's hands, something almost literary. Let's talk about the absence at the center of this trailer. Batman is not in it. Not a cowl, not a silhouette. Well, almost. There is a shadow on that Gotham brick wall. There is a Gotham City police car in the background of one shot. The DC logo bookends everything. But the actual Dark Knight, the character whose entire mythology Clayface is built inside, gone. And I think this is one of the most deliberate, sophisticated marketing decisions DC has made in years. Think about what DC is doing here structurally. James Gunn has been very public about wanting each film in this new DC universe to feel like a distinct creative statement. He has said, and I am paraphrasing, that he wants the individual artists on these projects to bring their own self-expression, that not everything should look the same or feel the same, that the DCU is not the Gunverse. It is a canvas where different voices paint different things. And Clayface is the proof of concept for that philosophy. Fear in face. That title card branding is not subtle. It is designed to disorient you, to make you feel the word fear before your brain fully processes Clayface. That is the kind of psychological priming that horror filmmakers use, not superhero marketing teams. That is a studio trusting a horror filmmaker to market a superhero property as horror. That has almost never happened before. But back to Batman. DC has not yet announced who will play the DCU's Bruce Wayne, the version who will eventually carry the main Batman franchise forward in The Brave and the Bold. And Clayface, whether intentionally or not, slots perfectly into the cinematic tradition of the villain origin story told without the hero. Think about Joker in 2019. Todd Phillips never showed us Batman. He did not need to. The entire point was that we were inside Arthur Fleck's perspective, and from inside that perspective, hope, rescue, and heroism simply did not exist. The absence of Batman was the thesis statement. The world this man inhabits has no savior. Clayface appears to be making the same argument about Matt Hagen. This is a man whose story, the part that matters, the part that makes him who he becomes, happens before anyone in a cape shows up. It happens in a hospital, in a bathtub, in a laboratory, where someone desperate enough to try anything meets a scientist ambitious enough to offer it. The body horror of DC lives precisely in that gap, between the wound and the monster, between the man and the thing he turns into, between the beautiful face and whatever is left beneath the man. Bandages. DC is not hiding Batman because they do not have one. DC is hiding Batman because this story does not need him. And honestly, that might be the scariest thing the trailer communicated. So, what are we actually looking at here? October 23rd, 2026. A date DC chose with intention. Deep in horror season, right in the shadow of Halloween. A date that says, we know what kind of film this is. We are not apologizing for it. We have James Watkins, the director of Eden Lake and The Woman in Black, applying genuine horror craft to a DC villain story. We have Mike Flanagan writing a psychological character study about identity, disfigurement, addiction, and the monstrous logic of desperation. We have Tom Rhys-Harris playing a man whose tragedy is so complete, so methodical, that by the time he becomes Clayface, you will probably understand exactly why. And we have a teaser that, in 41 seconds, told you everything you need to know about the WA tone of this film. Without a single explosion, without a single superhero, without a single moment of conventional comfort. The body horror of DC is not a gimmick. It is a genre shift. It is DC saying, we can do this too. Do you realize that you have the most beautiful face? If this breakdown changed how you are thinking about this film, drop it in the comments. Tell me, are you going to see Clayface as a horror film, or are you still expecting a superhero movie? Like, subscribe, and share this with the person in your life who still thinks DC only makes superhero movies. They need to be prepared.